Good morning, everyone. When I took office last month, I did so with a pledge for the people of Washington that I would advocate on their behalf, to protect their rights, to do everything possible to keep them safe, to make Washington State the best possible place to live, and to stand up for the values that make Washington unique. In that short time, we have seen an all-out assault by the President of the United States on the rule of law and on the Constitution. He does not care about either. And our office has been inundated with calls, contacts from all across Washington State about the harm that is being done to our state and to individuals by the president's onslaught of unconstitutional, illegal, and un-American, cruel executive actions. This president, on a day-to-day basis, invites tragedy and chaos with his dehumanization of people and our communities, and in his attempt to implement a corrupt vision for America. And so this morning, my staff filed a lawsuit in federal court to stop the president's illegal executive order that attempts to criminalize gender-affirming care for young people. That order poses an immediate threat to young people all across Washington State and to the medical professionals in Washington who provide much needed health care. We are joined in this lawsuit by the state of Oregon and the state of Minnesota. We are also joined by 3 individual plaintiffs in this suit as well. These are doctors representing themselves and the young patients that they provide needed health care to. This order is unconstitutional for 3 separate reasons. 1, it violates the 5th Amendment Equal Protection Guarantee by singling out trans youth for mistreatment and discrimination. 2, it violates the 10th Amendment by trying to regulate medical practices in Washington State. And 3, it violates the separation of powers. It overrules Congress's role in authorizing research and education funding that the president now threatens to withhold from medical institutions in Washington State. We are suing today because this order, like so many other things this president is doing, is illegal and unconstitutional. But having read this order very, very closely, I need to say something more. This president's order is gross. It is disgusting. It is hateful. So we will always take action against illegal conduct, but this one has special resonance because of the hate behind it. It promotes harassment and discrimination against people that are already marginalized. It risks their literal health and safety and that of their providers. We are requesting a temporary restraining order to immediately halt the harm that is being done because this is an emergency. One of the providers joining us and a plaintiff in this case said that if young people lose access to the care that they need, that they have no doubt that transgender youth will die. These providers not able to join us here today in part because they fear for their own safety. But we are joined in this room today by so many people, including those personally impacted by the president's eagerness to strip away their civil rights. They represent just a fraction of the people that are impacted and harmed and have been sharing their stories with this office. And I'm so proud of their presence today. First, we'll hear from Luna Crone-Barone, followed by Jessica Brady.
Hello, good morning. My name is Luna Crone-Barone. I am 19 years old. I'm a student at the University of Washington, and I've been a resident of Seattle, Washington since I was 6 months old. And I'm a transgender woman. And I'm here today, thriving, getting good grades in college, living a wonderful life because I was able to make decisions with my healthcare provider that served my healthcare needs. Gender-affirming care, in short, saved my life. It's really important to me that the public understand the gravity of this issue. For young transgender people such as myself growing up, there is often a sense of hopelessness, of feeling lost and afraid by the idea that we may not be able to grow up into a body or a future that feels true. For myself, this was a constant weight on my shoulders as a child, to the extent that I often felt suicidal at a very young age, feeling that I would rather die than go through male puberty. It was only because of the overwhelming love and support of my family and of my ability to get the care that I needed from my doctor that I am able to be here today, and that I believe is the reason that I'm alive today. And so, to restate, as Attorney General Brown was saying, this order will kill trans children. That is the gravity of it. That is what I believe is the intent of the order. I think that it is disgusting. I think that it is hateful. And it doesn't surprise me, given the rhetoric that has been used by our current president in his campaign, given the rhetoric that has been used in his first few weeks of presidency. My hope today with my brief comments is to invite you all to join the fight, because this is a fight that I've been fighting since I was a child, and that we've been fighting. It is my hope that the public may understand and support the idea that trans people have a right to survive, and furthermore, a right to thrive. Any action against any citizen's right to survive or thrive is unjust and unfair, and I hope that the public can understand the gravity of this issue, and that the gravity is that this order will kill trans children, if not stopped. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jessica. I am the mother of a beautiful trans daughter named Indigo. I am also the auntie to a gender fluid nibbling. I am also a public school educator and have had transgender students in my classroom. Gender affirming care for minors is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, which is why I am here today. Indigo's transition started in 2023. She asked us to start using they, them pronouns, and we happily chose to support her because we wanted her to know that she was loved and supported no matter what. A few months later, she started experimenting with clothing, and she found she really enjoyed wearing dresses, especially big flowy dresses with deep pockets. She asked us to start calling her Indigo and use she, her pronouns. Again, my spouse and I happily supported her. Behind closed doors, we did have some concerns, but we kept those out of Indigo's hearing because, again, we wanted her to know that no matter what, we loved her and we supported her. Indigo asked to start a medical transition in January of 2024. We got a referral from Indigo's therapist to a naturopath who specialized in gender-affirming care. This doctor has been an incredible resource for us. His whole method has been low and slow. Indigo has several comorbidities that makes any introduction of a new medication challenging. The doctor took blood samples, did numerous lab tests, and was in no rush to start medication until everything was thoroughly checked out. 3 months into Indigo starting her medical transition, it was as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She stood taller. She was more present in her body. She was more social and happy. She would go for 5 hours on Sunday and play D&D with her friends. It was so beautiful. It is beautiful. It was clear that this was the right decision for her. What I want you to hear, what I want every person to hear, is that when we deny minors gender-affirming care, we are saying that it is okay for children to die. We're saying it's okay for children to suffer. And I can't believe that that would be what any of us want. Thank you for your time and for listening to my story.
We thank Luna and Jessica for their courage of being with us today. And let me share three final thoughts. First, yesterday, a judge in another case that this office has brought, I think provided some very needed and timely context for why we are here again today. In court yesterday, Judge Kuhnauer said, there are moments in this world's history when people look back and ask, where were the lawyers? Where were the judges? In these moments, he said, the rule of law becomes especially vulnerable. And that is why this work is so vital. Second, I want to thank the incredible team in the Attorney General's office. And in so many different areas, we're doing incredible work for the people of the state of Washington. And quite often that work does not get the recognition and attention that it deserves. And in this particular matter, we have had so many people over the last 10 days since this order came out, putting in overtime, working nights and weekends to put together the complaint and the motion that we are filing today to stop this illegal action. Some of those people are here behind me. Some are in the room today. Some right now are working sure that we get everything filed properly. And that is an unusual and heavy lift by this office, such that the temporary restraining order that we're filing today, along with Minnesota and Oregon, has, I believe, over 100 separate declarations from people like Jessica, from people like Luna, from medical care providers. It is the single largest number of declarations that we have had in a case like this in many, many years. And so I just want to thank them for supporting the people of the state of Washington, for making the sacrifices that they did to make this action possible today. And third, I want to say directly to the young trans people in this state, you are not alone. You are not alone. We will do everything we can to fight for your dignity, for your health care, and for your rights. We also have the support from the governor of this state. I want to thank Governor Ferguson for his support in this action. I want to thank the support from the legislators who have given us their support for this action. I want to thank all the people who have reached out to this office asking us to take action. Because this community that we're defending today is often the victim of hate and marginalization. But you are not alone in the effort that we are doing today. And I take great strength in their bravery, and hope everyone here in this state can take that same hope as well. I'll take questions.
Attorney General, can you explain further your legal analysis on why this violates the Fifth and 10th Amendment?
Well, there's a lot of detail in the complaint, but I would encourage everyone to read it very closely. On the 10th Amendment, state law generally governs how we provide medical care in Washington. And in our view, as outlined in our complaint and in our TRO, the president's action in this order violates our sovereignty and our ability to do that. Second, it very clearly targets transgender people. It is denying them health care that is not denied or attacked for anybody else. And that is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. So in my view, and if you read the strength of our complaint and our TRO, it is blatantly unconstitutional. John.
Members' question. Are there any estimates on how many transgender people are in the state? How many transgender kids? How many of hospitals are affected by this? And how much in federal allocations are affected?
I'm sure there are. I don't have those numbers, but we'll provide it after this.
Okay.
What should hospitals do in the meantime? I know that one already canceled the surgery and others were saying saying we're trying to figure this out?
Well, I think, the necessity of this lawsuit is borne out by the challenges that hospitals all across Washington are facing, those hospitals that provide this gender-affirming care. Because not only have they been threatened illegally by the president to lose their funding, they have been threatened with criminal prosecution. Now, I want people to think about what that means. The president of the United States is telling doctors, if you provide healthcare to people that they so clearly and desperately need, you might be subject to prosecution. Can you imagine what that might mean for a doctor, a healthcare provider, an institution to have the threat from the president of the United States that you might be prosecuted for providing healthcare, from doing your job? And so we took this action to do everything we can to reduce that threat. I recognize how hard it will be for healthcare providers to decide what is best for them. We obviously have been thrilled with the support that we have from providers in bringing this lawsuit, and you will see a number of declarations from them, including from Seattle Children's Hospital, about why this action is necessary. And each provider is going to have to do what they believe is right. But we hope that the judge will immediately stop this order and at least provide some temporary reassurance to them that they continue to serve people as is needed.
But sooner or not, is it clear hospitals actually have to comply with this order? Orders are not self-enforcing. Health and Human Services has not issued any kind of rule. Any kind of rule would take a long time as well.
In our view, the order itself is unconstitutional.
Right.
And because of the unconstitutionality, we brought the lawsuit. Each healthcare provider is going to have to do what they do in their view about whether they need to follow the order or not. But we have already seen the impact. We have already seen providers deciding that they cannot take the risk because of the threat to criminal prosecution and because of the threat to losing their funding. So in our view, this action was necessary to prevent that, to provide them protection.
All right, just to kind of back off of that, we heard from the New York Attorney General, for example, saying that hospitals out of this order are actually violating. So can you articulate if you agree with that, and how we feel about hospitals who are already complying?
Well, every state has a different set of laws, and so I will tell you that I've been in close contact with my colleague attorney generals across this country, as each of us try to evaluate whether or not we should bring legal action, and I am not familiar with New York state laws, and so I will defer to the outstanding attorney general that they have in New York. What I will say is that each of the fact patterns is very specific, and gender-affirming care means a lot of different things. It does not only mean providing healthcare to transgender people or transgender youth. It also means providing healthcare to cisgender people and cisgender youth. So again, my view was this action was necessary to provide hospitals and patients protection, but each state is going to have a different evaluation based on their state laws, whether or not they have to comply with the president's order.
Attorney General, it's a delicate question, but there are parts of this country that feel exactly the opposite of you. Just the president who was elected on this issue, or one of the reasons why he was elected. How do you answer to other parts of the country to say, hey, they want this executive order?
Well, I answer to the people of the state of Washington, first and foremost. And not only do I answer to the people of the state of Washington, I answer to the laws of the state of Washington. And, as I've said many times in just my first few weeks in office, there will be things that the president does that I find disgusting, hateful, or simply bad policy decisions. And this order is that, but that would not be the basis of a lawsuit. I will not bring a lawsuit simply because I disagree with the president of the United States. This action is illegal. And the other thing I would say is that never should a lawyer, particularly an attorney general that has an obligation to represent the people, make decisions only when they're politically popular. We have so much reminders in our history of people that are victimized and marginalized and excluded, where it would not be popular to defend those individuals. My father was fairly active in the civil rights movement, and so much of my legacy is built upon the people who spoke up on behalf of the people who did not have power, who did not have a voice. And I have no doubt there will be people in Washington who think we should not have brought this action. My job is to defend the people who don't have a voice. My job is to defend our laws, and that is why we brought this case. In the back.
How do you plan to understand what they need and help them?
So the question for folks who couldn't hear is, how do we plan to continue to engage with the community and talk about the impact of the actions that are being taken? So in my view, my role is multifaceted. We speak principally through the actions that we take, not only in our litigation, but in a myriad of other tools that this office has. But I also have an obligation to make sure that we are as transparent with the community as possible to explain why we do certain things and why we don't. You know, it was interesting in the last few days, I've personally been contacted, and this office has been contacted a number of times, asking me, why haven't you joined the letter from these other people, other attorney generals that they're put out? And that's because we were working on this case. So sometimes it's difficult for the public to really understand the decision making here, but we have a continuing obligation to make sure that we're available and engaged. And that's not only me, that's for the rest of the incredible people in this office. So we will do everything we can to talk to people, to reach people, to explain our decision makings, to listen to people that disagree with us. But that work will be ongoing moving forward.
What about the other executive order that bans transgender women from participating in women's sports, and the NCAA said that they're going to follow that?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things that the president is doing that are illegal, alarming. We will take each order as it comes and review, and I will assure you that this office looks very closely at every action taken by the president. This is the third case that the state of Washington has joined since President Trump took office, but there have been, I don't know, 50 or so executive orders, so we're not challenging everyone. So we will look closely at that. We will work in collaboration with our other states to see if it's appropriate for Washington state to take action. Again, there may be some things that he does that I don't like that are legal, and we'll just make that analysis as we go.
Follow up just to pin you down on her question. Is your office currently reviewing the ban on transgender girls and women in girls sports? Is that something your office is researching right now?
We're reviewing every executive order the president puts out.
Is your office going to assist 988 teen link hotlines and other sources that might be contacted directly by trans teen youth who are concerned, depressed, even suicidal, about the federal actions? Are you going to give these hotlines talking points and assistance so that the teens most impacted can get an appropriate layperson's view of support for the transgender?
That's a really good question, because we continue to try to be a resource for people and for organizations, many of whom are engaged in the type of support that you highlight. We have to be careful about how we provide that resource. We represent the state of Washington and state agencies, and so I cannot provide legal advice to non-state organizations. We can talk about the work that we do and bring public attention to that, and we can bring information to people. But there's a fine line between providing information and providing legal advice. So I do think it is very important that the public continue to reach out to this office. Our Civil Rights Division has been flooded with requests and ask for assistance, not only with respect to the impact on transgender youth, but immigrant communities and a whole host of people that are scared because of this president. And so we continue to try to respond to that as much as possible. But we have a principal obligation to act on behalf of the people and to represent our clients and to try to find space to do all of that. All right. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. And thank you again to the individuals who have supported this effort, and all of the people that provided declarations, all of the people that provided their stories and their truth and their vulnerability to this office. I'm so proud of your courage and to get us here. And I look forward to the work ahead. Thank you again.